what really helped is that we had a quick huddle outside, and I was told that we have to start with a fun question. But then I thought, I would not be doing my job as a moderator if I really followed the instructions, right? So I'm going to ask a question to all the panelists, right? What is that one super skill that you wish you had in your long and successful career? And does that answer remain same over a period of time?
So good afternoon, everyone. This is the fun part of it, right?
You can interpret it whichever way.
All right. So you said a super skill that I wish I had, right? So I think one skill that I probably always would want to have is to be a sort of a fly on the wall, be able to listen to everyone, know what is happening without really anyone noticing. I think I wish I had that superpower if I had to have one. Yeah.
So great question. Thank you for that, Abhijit. How many of you know what chromatophobia is? Does anybody know what chromatophobia is? And I wish, considering that I'm in HR, I would know and identify people who have chromatophobia. Chromatophobia is the phobia of money, right? So I thought if I could have that skill set, then I would solve for engagement and attrition, because if you look at any engagement survey today, the one that gets the maximum attention is rewards and benefits, right? So I think that's what I would think. I wish I would have had that super skill. Right, sir?
For me, I would like to become a Spider-Man, considering the Delhi traffic. So I just wanted to remove the whatever uncertainties around my travel time. So would like to weave the web and reach my destination in the shortest possible time.
Bangalore just beat you.
Correct. But I'm just picking on this removing uncertainty. I think this should be an unanimous answer for all of us. If all of us could manage to remove uncertainties around us in our environment, I think we all would be winners. But thank you so much for that. I think coming back to the topic, and organizations are forced to change at a faster pace. So in such an environment, and I also want to contextualize it with post-COVID era where role of technology has become really important, and in particular L&D initiatives, in particular upskilling. How do you see the role of upskilling in change initiatives? Because those are probably the initiatives which is going to drive the organization to its ultimate goal today. Anybody can pick it up.
Okay, since I'm sitting right next to you. All right, so I think the role of upskilling and bringing about change management is extremely important. Organizations, and since you mentioned COVID, I think post-COVID there's been a lot of change within organizations, traditional organizations that were no longer, or not really using technology have also stepped up and really started to become, they understand the importance of becoming agile, of being able to adapt and change very quickly, otherwise they do not remain relevant. And how do they do that, unless their people are able to, make those changes quickly? That happens only if you are able to provide certain, support to the employees to be able to, quickly modify, quickly change their behaviors. And upskilling is definitely one of the ways of doing that. There are so many competencies that have become relevant today. For example, having a digital mindset. Something that may have been a good to have or a must have competency now. And for that particular reason, upskilling is becoming really important for HR professionals to really bring about within the organizations.
I think interesting perspectives, right? I think one that I see is HR's role in managing change, and especially so what the pandemic taught us, that is possibly the new world order, right? And I think nothing much has really changed since the pandemic. I think those of us who are in the C-suite are experiencing change and disruption practically every 3 to 6 months. And by the time we think that we have kind of solved for something, the next wave hits us, right? So whether you talk about it, the great resignation, you talk about quiet quitting, or then organizations wanting people to come back, or you see the swathes of attrition happening, or then right now where we are all trying to see where the economy is going and trying to keep our nose above the water, it's constant change that we are living in. And I think the big play for HR is really how do you convert resistance to resilience? And that connecting to your point around learning and reskilling as an agenda, I think we experienced that, right? Most organizations through the pandemic that survived were organizations that had learning agility in the organization, which could quickly morph and remorph its business structures, its operating structures, and had a learning culture. And I think we all learned that. And I think today, I think HR very clearly has a very integral role to build that resilience in the organization. And we are doing that, right? I think the good thing is whether we are looking at gamifying learning today, and we've done a good job of that, whether we are looking at bite-sized learning, we realize that attention spans are fast depleting. Nobody has the appetite to sit like this over an extended period of time. Everybody's in their phone half the time. And therefore, how do you use 30-second reels, 60-second reels to really push through learning? And that's something that we have started to do. And we realize that not only are people learning from trainers or faculty or their leaders, leaders are also learning from each other. Then how do you push this whole agenda of peer-to-peer learning and gamifying the entire experience? So that's my one perspective to say, I feel HR has a role to look at how do you build resilience in the organization and do a good job of change management. That's fine.
That's the most common subject HR people would always confront with. How to manage change. Guys, we all know change has been, change is the only constant. This is what we have been hearing since our, whenever we would have started working, that's the most heard statement anybody would have made to us. But believe you me, the change management is also as constant as the change is, right? We are talking of, Darwin spoke of the survival of the fittest, right? It's not about the survival of the fittest, it is survival of the fastest now. Who adapts the change? The fastest, right? And when we talk of the upskilling, why should somebody do it? I mean, the most important role as a HR professional I see for most of us is ensuring that what and how is communicated along with a very powerful why. And that why should not expose the insecurities of the individual. We all have our own insecurities, right? The why should not be a statement which says, oh, if I don't do this, then my job is at stake. My neck is on the block. No. I mean, like the very powerful statement, including what, how, and why, has to be weaved into the fabric of the organization for any change, big or small. If we are able to communicate the what is in for me in that change, whether it is upskilling, the attitude, the will part, or adapting the change, even as a follower, right? We have, I'm like, that has to be done at the earliest with a very strong message, and as leaders, we need to walk the talk. Alok was saying the say-do ratio. So if our say-do ratio is misplaced, I'm like, it'll only be a lip service for anything which we want to bring about, any change, small or big, for the organization. That would be my take.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. I think I'm just going to take a cue from Unmesh, mentioned about learning agility. And you know, especially working in a premier management school, I find some of these words, you know, slightly very heavy. So could you guys give me a bit of a decoded answer of what can learning agility mean? And have you seen it in your organization? Have you seen it in other organizations as an example?
Let's be very simple, right? What does learning agility mean? Learning agility basically is building the muscle in the organization to be able to embrace change on a continuous rate. And how do you do that? You do that by first democratizing the organization. The thing that we most grapple with in organizations is organizational silos. And we've all experienced that, right? We've seen our leaders are fabulous, but they are fabulous, and the teams under them are fabulous as far as they have to do and deal with something that's within their business or service line. But when it comes to enterprise leadership, it's about solving for the larger organization and not just solving for your business or your service line or unit that you are. And therefore, from a learning agility standpoint, what interventions from a learning agenda standpoint or a HR agenda, that agenda standpoint, are you putting in place to facilitate that? And I think one example that comes to my mind is, so I've come into Dentsu, which is a marketing and advertising company, and what we are seeing is, whilst we have our Japanese heritage and culture, what we are seeing is this industry is going through transformation. And then you'll say, yeah, big deal, all our industries are going through transformation. But we realize that one of the things that I just talked a few seconds back is what I'm grappled with. So we say, how do you build learning agility in the organization? And how do you democratize the organization? So we've started a program, and some of you would have, if you go to our social pages, just about a week, 14 days ago, we launched our Next Generation Council. What is a Next Generation Council? Next Generation Council are folks who are less than 26, 27 years of age, who have been part of the organization for the last couple of years, but are identified as high performers and high potentials and potential future leaders for the organization. So we've done a gender balance, location balance, 33, 35 odd leaders that we have identified and handpicked. And they are going to be part of this learning journey. Now that is great, right? But what does it really do? We've put them on capstone projects that are integral to the organization. So 4 or 5 people across different businesses form a cohort. And now, as they solve for business problems, suddenly what you're seeing at the bottom of the pyramid in the organization, you have started to build enterprise leadership. That is a way of building. Now think about these same leaders, right? It's very early in their leader journey, but couple of years now, they suddenly have a network which is enterprise-wide. They start to think about the organization first, then think about just their business. That is an example of building learning agility. And this is, I think, what we need to build: greater interdependence within organizations and the ability to think not just for the now, because the projects that they're working on, whilst they be working on it now, the realm of that is clearly 3 to 5 years out. So you are focusing and forcing them to think about scenarios and how do you embrace change continuously. So long answer to a short question, but hopefully I've talked about how do you unpack this and work on something like this. Back to you, Abhijit.
Thank you, and I'm quite reassured to hear the word capstone projects, because even when, as SPJIMR in executive education vertical, when we work with our corporate partners, right, in various L&D initiatives, we do highlight the importance of a live capstone project and, you know, measuring its impact throughout, right? So very, very reinforcing there. Taking a step back, role of technology, I think when we were hitting COVID, there was a lot of talk about self-paced content leading the subsequent L&D initiatives. And I think that was the need of an hour, and I think it did a fair bit of job at that point of time. However, subsequently, we started seeing some of the drawbacks of that also. Today, now that we are stabilizing after the COVID, we are getting back to normal beyond that already. How do you guys, as people leaders in your organizations and industry, how do you see the role of self-paced learning?
Okay. So you're absolutely right. I think what COVID did was kind of push learning, because that was a period when I think every organization managed to upskill and push learning, because there was really nothing else that we could do, right?
That's right.
Right. But how do we sustain it, and what is the way forward? Is self-paced learning the only way ahead? I don't think that's right now. It has its own merits, of course. You're allowing people to learn at their own time, the way they want, taking in content in the manner that they would want to. But there is an element of that group cohesion that is missing when you're sitting as a group learning together, having a fun time learning something that is missing if you're not having some sort of classroom sessions.
Peer learning.
So there is, of course, peer learning, as well as, making sure that each one of us is supported by the others while we are doing that learning, right? So somewhere I think it's a mix that is required. You cannot just have one bit of learning through e-learning platforms and that's it. You need to figure out also in terms of, I would consider, sending your employees to events like this where they're learning from other organizations and people, speaking about their organizations, how they're doing it. That's also a form of learning. That also opens up their horizons and their mindsets, and they understand, okay, this is also what we could do in the in our organization. So all kinds of sort of mix is required now. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Askari.
I have a different experience, which may be contrary to our experiences. Self-paced learning only works in one situation, when you are marked. If you do not do the compliance certificate, that risk certification, then that's where, because you would be marked and evaluated, and it impacts your financial health at the end of the year, that's where you get engaged in the self-paced learning. Else, it's again only lip service. I have been associated, I've been on different sides, both sides of the table. Just to give an example, I was delivering a program on strategic thinking virtually for a leading financial institution, a French multinational, right? There were 27 participants, right? And I'm delivering this program virtually, 4-hour sessions every third day. And all of them had cameras off. All 27 participants had their cameras off. I got that feeling that I'm talking to a wall. And to create the engagement, I had to actually take everybody's name. Gaurav, can you please come in? Ramesh, can you please come in? I'm just creating those names. Vipul, can you do this? Because I wasn't sure whether they are there, they're not there. Because this training on strategic thinking was linked to, they are hitting a tick mark in their CHRO sheet or the KPI sheet. And that's why they were there. So whether it is self-paced learning or it is virtual learning where you have the liberty to switch off your cameras, you would get a very low return on investment, which I, in my local language as a facilitator, call nil bata sannata. Right? So you don't get any return on that investment which you make.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to agree there completely. Yeah. Yes, sure. But, Mr. Rai, if it is so, then really people will not leave the organizations. In my experience, when you ask somebody who's resigned and wants to go, the first question, or for the first response also, besides the money aspect, is I wasn't growing, I wasn't learning enough, I wasn't really given that opportunity to learn something new. For me, I think learnability and the excitement of learning and why people would want to really learn is if they understand what is it for themselves. If they feel that this is where I am going to benefit from that learning, they will. Otherwise, they will definitely switch off cameras and will not be there, no matter how many assessments you do after that. It really doesn't matter, because they haven't really. It was like somebody's pushed them, acha jao, jaake ye conference attend kar lo, ya you are going to be part of this training program because somebody's pushed you. But if you are going there willingly, knowing that, okay, I am going here because this is what I feel I'm going to learn from it, then you will definitely pay attention, be on camera and sort of learn.
That's what I said. It has to be a tick mark in their KPI, KRA, and that's why they come and attend. And I'll add to one more thing which you said, that I have quit because I wasn't growing. Beside the money part of it. ये ज्ञान प्राप्ति अचानक से एक दिन कैसे हो गई? That's my question. If you have been in the system for 6 years and you have not been growing, have you ever spoken to your manager, manager, the head HR? अचानक से ज्ञान प्राप्ति is a question mark.
So I think just to go back to the point, Abhijit, right? I think the question that we've asked is saying self-paced learning and the journey within the organization, right? I think what's important to anchor back is that until and unless from a talent agenda standpoint, you don't define learning journeys well, and you don't define the why of those learning journeys, there you will experience some of the things that my fellow panelists have been articulating, right? Because I've been pushed to attend the training without necessarily attending the why of the training. That's first. Second, we need to understand that face-to-face training allows you certain luxuries that virtual and self-paced doesn't allow you, right? And therefore, instructional design and solving for how off the delivery becomes equally important. I talked about in the opening to say where our attention spans today are. From a design standpoint, we need to be able to respond to that. And then, of course, is to say, whilst we we need to be able to use in self-paced as much as possibility of cohort-based learning, which is the whole peer learning opportunity. It's about evaluating each other to some degree, so some element of gamification that needs to happen. I see the answer is in the and not in the or. I do not believe that we are at the luxury of coming back to a luxury that we are having here, of having everybody right now face to face. It's a luxury, right? I think money is tight in general. Training money is tight in general. And paucity of time to be able to pull out from learning is also going to be challenging. And therefore, organizations will leverage the hybrid model of being able to use online and physical as much as possible going forward. But I think it's here to stay. It is therefore challenging for institutions that support leadership development and management development, as well as organization, internal learning teams, to be able to see how what you're working on from a learning agenda standpoint is really building back capabilities for the organization, not just for the today, but also from a future-proofing standpoint for the way ahead.
Thank you, Unmesh. I think I'm loving the different perspectives that are coming here. I want to come back to impact, measuring impact. And I think even in my role, when we talk to our corporate partners to form specific learning journeys, my first question to the human resources team and the business team is, why are we doing it? And how do we know whether we've done it right? How do we measure impact? Are we looking at a matrix change, a skill change, a behavior change, an attitude change? And oftentimes I do get the answer, oftentimes I don't get the answer. So my question is this very utopian? I mean, is this a void question to even ask, or do we have some hope and we can think in that journey, in that direction?
If you want a one-word answer is, can the impact be measured? The answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is one-word answer, yes. Now, the second thing comes on the keenness. Keenness of the sponsor of the learning journey. Right? Whether it could be the director, head HR, CHRO, CPO, CEO, whosoever is the sponsor.
And business also.
That's what I'm saying. Whosoever the sponsor is,
Yes.
could be the CEO, which means the business side of it, the CHRO, or which means the people side of it. One is the willingness and the investment, and the third is the patience. Right? Because if you have invested some money in a 6 months long, 9 months long, 1 year long journey, the impact will not be seen on the 366th day.
Yeah, true.
Right? Yeah. So as leaders, do we have that patience? Right? Do we understand why are we looking for, like Unmesh said, the why? Why is most of the time the why element gets missed? Why the learning journey? Why the investment? Why this particular participant which has been chosen? So if why gets missed, so the patience, and also are we willing to give time to see that change? The return on investment. I'm like, the advertising guy, he goes and charges crores of rupees for an advertising campaign, right? The client pays the friend of mine, and then do you expect the return immediately next day when it's run on TV, or the hoardings are put, or a digital campaign is done, right? So the people have to be, the leaders particularly, have to be very sure that they are looking for evaluation of the return on investment, right? And then we can have different models, Kirkpatrick, John Phillips, Kaufman, Roger Kaufman. And we can do the research on these models to ensure that we evaluate the return on investment, subject to certain preconditions, criteria at the organization level being met.
So I think I just believe that training is an enabler, and training cannot be the be-all and solve for building organizational capabilities. So if you've thought that you tie up with one of the management institute or send your people for a strategic management program and is going to solve for something, the answer is a clear no. I think we need to understand that learning intervention is one of the things that you create. Change happens because of provocation or evocation, right? And learning is one of the levers that you use for one of these. Either there is evoked change, and therefore there is behavioral shift that you experience, or you provoke enough through the training to say, "Bhai, everybody is doing, therefore peer pressure, therefore I need to do it," right? Which is the attitudinal shift that you desire out of learning. I believe, it's okay. What I believe that I think organizations, if they do not put behaviors into place beyond just training, your processes need to shift, your governance needs to shift if you desire certain capabilities. And if you don't put that support mechanisms or support aids in place in the pursuit of building certain capabilities, then we all know that most learning that you go through, you're going to forget it within whatever X time. And therefore, the big proponent that I am of learning journeys that extend over a period of time, people spend smaller durations, go in, learn something, implement it, discuss with the cohort, try and see what the learnings are, then come back again for something, and then experience that through the organization is potentially the way to go. Back to you, Abhijit.
So yeah, just summing up what the two said, of course, the impact of training can be measured, provided you have defined the objective of the training in the first place. The why of it, definitely. And the second aspect, it can only be measured if you have changed the, the environment which was not conducive for that impact to happen in the first place. So if you've not changed your processes, if you've not changed the way you're working, and you still feel that training is the way things are going to change, that will not happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to pick what Mr. Rai said about patience and the why of the training, and I'm going to talk about one of the most, perceivably most difficult part of L&D initiatives, which is coaching and mentoring. Something that we perceive has a long gestation period in even creating an impact. And I'm mindful of using these words together, however, they do mean very different things. But especially when change is becoming constant and change is happening at a faster pace, how do you see role of coaching and mentoring, which inherently has long gestation impact, but probably has a higher amplifying impact because, you coach and then the coachee becomes a coach and then all of that. How do you see role of coaching and mentoring and what sort of success examples would you have seen? Yeah.
So, I'm a believer that coaching and mentoring are the cornerstones of individual and collective growth. I think it's a reality that you can't run away from. And here's the reason why. I think we've realized that we have come to a day and age where people that are potentially working for us are more smarter from a knowledge and functional capability standpoint than we are. And the only value, if any, that we can add to them is the life experience that we bring on and offering them perspectives that will potentially help them to step up and do a phenomenally better job and get to their potential, right? That's the second thing. And therefore, talking and doing postmortems and talking about just feedback is great, but I think what's important is feed forward and looking at what needs to happen going forward. And I think organizations that have got into the habit of continuous check-ins, where managers talk about the last fortnight or the last month that was, things that have gone well, and then identifying the aspirations and considering the potential of the individual to say where they potentially can get to and have conversations about that. Now, if this becomes a way of life, then you will not have experience of क्या एक ही दिन आपको आविष्कार हुआ कि you are not learning, you are not growing. What your people are really asking for is somebody invested in me adequately and is somebody thinking about me. Because what happens in today's fast-paced life is like what's written out here, we become chief human resources officers, and resources, the moment you put in resources, we forget that they are humans, and humans cannot be optimized beyond a point in time. Or they don't want to be seen as resources that are dispensable. And I think that's my answer to it. I think it's a cornerstone of growth for individuals and collective. It's a way of life. It's a way of building learning agility. And going back to the point of what some of the earlier panels have talked about, right? Elements around purpose, elements around trust. I'd like to believe a coaching culture, a mentoring culture in the organization allows you to build anchorage and trust and therefore helps with the engagement agenda in the organization.
Abhijit, I think I'd like to add to what Unmesh just said. While coaching and mentoring, they cannot be really used interchangeably, right? But they ultimately have an impact on the individual, on the organization, on employee productivity, all of that. But I don't think it's right for us to really look at it from one lens, that is a junior getting coached or mentored from a senior. There is so much of reverse mentoring that is happening in organizations. The youngsters bring with them certain competencies and talent that older generations don't have. And organizations which have this culture of mentoring and coaching, as well as reverse mentoring and I would say reverse coaching also in certain cases, really thrive because it's a two-way kind of knowledge transfer. And that is what actually brings about that, organizational impact at the end of the day. You are spending considerable amount of your time making sure that your mentee or the person you are coaching is able to understand the nuances of the business, while you yourself are learning something new, whether it is in form of a new technology, a new way of approach, a different approach to a certain problem, that ultimately the organization kind of benefits from that.
Thank you so
Abhijit,
much.
I'll just add one.
Please.
The people who have been hired as coaches, whether internal or external, if they believe, I'm emphasizing that word believe, that they are into a helping profession. That's where they would create an impact, and not mastering the coaching or the coachee or the mentee. Right? The coachee or the mentee shouldn't be treated as a slave. Right? And that's where because both of them are helping professions. And you may be the best of the leaders, and you may become the worst of the coaches. Right? So, that has to be considered.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I'm just mindful of the time, and I had to save the most challenging question to the end, but I am not sure whether I can do justice to it. But what I'm still going to throw the question open and ask all of you, each of you, to summarize also, or give like that one line as a concluding remark. We talk about upskilling, and the previous panel spoke about attitude being more and more important versus skills as people grow in the pipeline, the leadership pipeline. So is attitude something that can be changed, cultivated through structured means, or is it about life experience? And along with that, just if you can summarize this discussion, or what is your most important takeaway just in one line? Mr. Rai.
It can be changed, right?
Okay.
Again, why and patience.
I think I'm going to take these two words back.
Yeah. So why do you have to change? You need to have that very strong purpose, objective of communicating the why element to it, and the patience.
Thank you.
Rome was not built in a day, it was built every day. So small little changes.
So I think the answer is the obvious yes, and I think one way of doing this is culture alignment, right? So you hire for culture fit. You could hire the most iconic individuals, and they could be abrasive to your environment. And therefore, are you clear about what your organizational intent is, what kind of culture it is, and what behaviors you want? And are you hiring for it? Are you developing for it? Are you promoting that? And are you penalizing for it? And if you do all of this, and like Sarai said, patience and time, over a period of time that you start to see that the organizational shifts, and you find that you have the right attitude that's required to support your capabilities going forward.
Thank you.
So skills and attitude both are important, and both are relevant, and both can be up, you can up the ante there. In terms of skills, of course, trainings and all. In terms of attitude, I think what is really important is if there is a sense of purpose as to why this is, why you're doing it, what is it in for you, or what is it in for the people that you work, and you get that sense of purpose, that's when you are able to change that attitude as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and absolutely bang on time. And thank you so much to all the participants here, panelists here. A big round of applause. Yeah, thank you so much.